Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I apologize for the slight delay as we head to the second half of the year. That's right. This is the second half of the year 2021, and also not so good news, isn't it? Especially those of you who are living in Selangor and Kuala Lumpur. You may know by today the enhanced MCO will be out, which means it does restrict us more in many ways, so we're not able to go out, but that does put the whole aspect of the economy and the recovery in the so-called KLCI market a little bit in the jeopardized, and we do not even know when it's out. As such, this morning we'll be checking out our SMARTRobie apps here to find out where we are. And thank you so much for those of you who are here with us this morning, especially during this tomorrow where we'll see the enhanced MCO. But don't fret, ladies and gentlemen, we have something good for you tomorrow, which will be a treat for those of you who are fundamental investors. Those of you who are looking value, definitely you want to join us tomorrow, our free Zoom workshop, which we already have that on the pin comment, the QR code, so you can register, and do feel free to share that with your friend and your colleague. And also we do hope that your siblings or your spouse were able to join and try to understand some of the aspect of the educational investing we are talking about here, not only in Malaysia but also in United States, where there is market uptrend that we're here. So all in this morning in our trading idea with SMARTRobie. I'm your host, Martin Wong. All right, let's look at what we have for you this morning in our daily headline. Of course, don't forget to submit your best stock idea that we have here. Andy Chong, who's just submitted in here, and he is able to get a Grab voucher of 50 ringgit in here. And also, we are promoting our all exchange pass, which means you activate your monthly pass and you're able to access all three stock exchange, the KLCI, SP500 and also SGX. No doubt the KLCI hasn't been this rosy, but the other two market, SGX, you are able to find some good shares going forward in here. And don't forget to submit your best stock trader completely free and a chance to win that iPad campaign in here. And today is Friday. We'll be looking at the advanced trade premium setup in here. Of course, let's look at the news roundup for this morning in here. Now, this morning, we all know that the manufacturing PMI will be affected with the since we have gone to the almost 3 weeks ago. I think we're coming to 3 weeks ago when we have the full lockdown of the MCO 3.0, and now we are going to enhance MCO only those who you living in Selangor and Wilayah. So this figure will continue to go down. Let's take a look at this morning where the market is and look at the KLCI, switching to a wider chart here. So you can see where we are at 1534. Now 1534 continue to break below the ATR stop loss in here that we see, which is around the 1560. As I said before, the 1560 level is that level that it needs to hold up. Breaking it further, that will give this market more room to go downwards in here. We do not know where is the bottom yet, because we do not know when we are exiting. So as such that we need to turn our attention, and which is why I will talk about the other exchange. So if you look from in here, the Malaysian manufacturing PMI is registering 39.9, and the last time we had that was last year when the COVID-19 became more serious, somewhere around the February, March and April time frame. So I do think that we're able to come out from this. Probably the earliest will be September, right, in 2021. So do look for sign of accumulation at that time frame. I do think our Malaysian market do present some opportunity, which we will look at it this morning in here. So as such that this morning, let's take a look at some of the big decliner. Again, we have Hatta Lega falling for many weeks. Actually, as a matter of fact, many of this rubber glove stock continue to fall despite being a lockdown in here. MPI, time.com, but the sentiment definitely hasn't been that great. Jining Tech continued to do very well. We can see here one of the big gainer. You can look at the chart wise, but if you look from the green pentagon, let me just share with you here. This is one of those companies haven't made money yet, but because they are involved in electric vehicle batteries, and somehow that stock seems to went up a huge. You can see in here Jining Tech from the green pentagon, right, are able to up 128%. So there are some silver lining among the market that is dropped. But again, this is definitely a trading shares inside here. You can see up this 128% from 4 ringgit. Right now it's almost 10 ringgit in here. So you can see how this market go up. There are some, but we have to be a bit hardworking and pay attention to all what's happening in the market in here. All right, let's look at where we are now. As such, the market, and let's turn our attention now to the next headline. Now the next headline is on Axis REITs. As many analysts and myself, we are looking for safe haven, Axis REIT, which focus on warehousing, and we all know e-commerce is good. So this is pretty good. So what you should do, WYST is something, a short form that is have some exposure in it. This market is not going to go down, but nor is going to go up, but it does have some dividend exposure. So those of you who really longing for some dividend, this is definitely one of those stocks. You want to take a look at it, Axis REITs, and you can look at a stock comment and stock chart. Right, you can see it is almost just short of the 3-month high here, switching to a wider chart here. So you can see it's really range bound. You could do is to have some sort of exposure, but this one I think will do pretty well going in the longer term. No doubt the Green Pentagon hasn't come out yet. You can wait for it. You can buy at a support at a good traditional location. But what I want to share with you is the fundamental. Now again, this article in here talk about industrial REIT, which is a safe haven. So you can see from here, EPF, Lembaga Tabung Haji, and KW bond on the big. But it does give a 4.5% dividend. You can see from the chart inside there. With a PE of 19 times, not too expensive. We look regionally, everything is about 40 times with the ROE of 6%. Okay, 6% of ROE, not that great, but definitely this weekend, this Saturday, do join me at 2 p.m. We're going to exploring, looking for some great value shares, which the true value hasn't been reflected yet. So make sure you join me this Saturday in here. Let's go on to our next story. Is the recovery in the construction. Now this story talks about, let me just switch to a wider chart in here, about the PFM model, where the government are announcing the Mass Rapid Transit Line 3. Now with the ongoing of the COVID-19 increasing cases, many of these now sort of take a back seat in aspect of the construction. But the report in here from the Maybank Investment Bank did have a buy call on Gamuda, IJM, and Licta. So let's take a look at them. First one is Gamuda, GAM. A buy call on Gamuda in here. So let's look at it from the chart wise here. And you can see Gamuda did have the Green Pentagon holding a base there. Let me just switch to a wider chart here, around 320. Hope it should hold because of the buy call that it has. And this is where it is. Perhaps the takeout of the old recent high, maybe a 330, you want to take some position in here. Let's take a look whether it pays any dividend. Definitely the trend is still very, very negative. All right, let's look at the stock fundamentals. So stock fundamental, it is only giving about 1.2, just short of the 2% with the ROE of 4. Really not that great. You can notice, the return on equity has been, with a PE of 21 times. The other stock they did have here is IJM. So let's take a look at IJM. Okay, IJM. So IJM, not IJM Corp. And stock chart and comment. You can see again, very similar. Even have a red Pentagon. So that kind of news construction allowed the stocks early on to hit high of 2 ringgit and then profit taking. So what it does say that anytime this kind of construction stock goes higher, profit taking comes in, despite of the good fundamental. They talk about private financial initiative in here. So the whole point about this story talk about many parts of this will be taken up privately, right? Initiative, which means there will be delay coming in here, which means the government may have problem with the financing overall of this one year, or maybe get shelved or rescheduled to a different time. So having said that, don't be too bullish yet. That's why the WYST stand for what you should do is stay aside first and wait for the next up move before considering buying any of these stocks that we have in here. All right. So the other counters are Kajaya and Kim Long. So do take note of that. As the nation recover eventually, when the COVID-19 where we have cases drop, then you will see many of these stocks will recover. Let's move on to our next story. So next story is on which is really taking a big buzz in the digital banking. We have Managed Pay working together with iFast, which is a Singapore base, and you can check out iFast has done pretty well on the Singapore side. So when we get down to the Singapore SMARTRobie, I will show you some of these stocks has done pretty well. I think the moral of the story in here is able to move between the stock exchange, moving your go into the trending stocks inside here. So let's take a look at MPay here. MPay. All right, let's look at the stock chart and stock comments, switching to wider chart. You can see MPay definitely since the green pentagon that was somewhere around 23rd of May, 1 month ago, has gone a fair bit, but I think you should take some profit in here now that this kind of news are coming out. MPay is about 11.4% since the green pentagon, right? And you can gain by just following the green. Of course, right now, those that has certain theme will do well, like construction we talked about it just now with the MCO, no good. Anything that is digital will do well, which is why we are talking about, just like what we have last year in the first MCO 1.0 in here. Many of the digital business or the compared to the brick and mortar, the digital one will do well. So right now, MPay will do well. Do take some profit in here. And now later on, we'll take a look at also at iFast. Okay. Now the next story also along the same line of digital banking license is PUC. Now PUC is one of those small cap stocks inside here who has positive and negative kind of trend in here. But this news definitely push it up higher, right? And usually on good news like that, if you are in on this stock, think to take profit, don't buy anymore. Usually there will be profit taking going forward in here. So let's take a look at PUC. As such, you can see from a very nice trend in here, PUC is 18.5% since the last green pentagon in here at 13.5 cents when first green pentagon comes out. So that's how you want to able to get in early by following the pentagon guider in here. So right now, good news, take profit. That's always been the kind of thing, right? So those of you who are beginner, do take note of this kind of trend that we see here. All right, now let's turn our attention right now to US, which is a bit more hotter as the US close up. The KLCI goes further, but the S&P 500 hit another record where the initial job claim fell 364% in here, better than 399, but even at the new pandemic low. Of course, there are talks about the new Delta variant, which currently is about at 26%, but eventually going to the coming weeks, this Delta variant will be the major transmission in US, but the vaccination, the AstraZeneca that they have in US will act very effectively. So it's yet to be seen, but I do think the market may have priced in a little bit of the Delta variant. It's just that how fast of the vaccination as US is opening up, and also this weekend is the 4th of July. There will be a lot of traveling because of the public holiday that they have, and the coming 2 weeks, which is the mid-July, that's the part where we will see big correction in US because of the traveling would cause the spread that we see in Indonesia. Now remember, at the end of the May, after the Hari Raya that they have in Indonesia, there were a lot of traveling in here, and as such, Indonesia, the COVID cases based on the Delta variant has gone up to about 21,000 as of yesterday. So are we going to see this trend that we saw in India previously, then Indonesia, will we see it in US? If this is quite true, this prevailing trend, then we will see US taking a hit somewhere around mid-July in here. But right now, it is trending up. So always keep your sight on the chart, looking at the price and the volume. Now, what I've said here are just building the scenario for you, what is going to happen. And usually that's what I do. And I look at the likelihood, what is going to happen. And it helps me in many ways. So, but one thing definitely for sure is the 10-year yield treasury is easing off. So there are many talks about it what's the next catalyst as the market goes into the second half of 2021. Will we see an up move or not? But my guess is that that's likely to see because of the infrastructure, and also this coming November we will have the COP26, which is the green energy. That's why a lot of the green energy stocks is started to move up. So do take note about this in here. Check it out on the US side, which we will right now. And the next news that pops up is Micron earnings. Now Micron earnings came out last night, was impressive, and usually we all know semiconductors are benefiting from the recovery of the post-COVID and also of the shortage of the chips in here, and this stock will do well. So semiconductors are slightly making a move. Let's take a look at the US market. SP 500 hitting the SMARTRobie, hit the market today, and you can see we do have, here is just nice trend. This is where you see a huge difference what we saw in Malaysia. The KLCI going down, the US market going up. So many of you who are familiar with it will begin to understand why US market has its merits. We do have an uptrust in there, but it does look like it's been taken out. So that is strength coming in here. Let's take a look at the market, what we have last night. And last night, the Dow Jones closes 22 points up, and you can see most active was NEO, dropped 4%. Of course, we've been going up. AMD and MU, that's the one that we saw 3. Let's hit MU, item number 3 here, right? And usually we all understand good news take profit, all right? But let's take a look at the chart right now, stock chart and MU. Okay, so you can see this chart, actually we look back on the left, came from the old high, which is around the 95 US dollar. It really dropped to the low of the 65. So we are coming up from a very low base. Of course, the green pentagon in here. This does give you an example of a pullback. And when we see the recovery on the semiconductors, this eventually will revert back to the old high. So there's a lot of what we call swing freedom going up, and that's definitely very, very similar in here. Now let's take our attention and want to present to you another trending stock that we have on the SGX market. Now this is our 1st of July, which is yesterday. UOB Kay Hiang maintained a buy on UMS due to the industrial tailwind. Now this is pretty interesting. Why we say that is because now we start to compare the US side, right? Like Micron, which is the semiconductors, which have a lot of this profit taking is high. But remember in Singapore, the SGX, let's take a look at Singapore SGX in here. As we can see, switching to SGX Singapore, you can see go to SMARTRobie in here. Going to STI market trend. So on the SGX side, you can see switching to a wider chart. So here is, you can see also very similar, the SGX dated yesterday, 1st of July. We can see the market is also trending up, but there is what we call a formation of a double bottom, because we all know Singapore has handled the COVID cases much, much better. That's why, the market's not going up. But I do think there is a play around in here, the recovery. Right now, the sentiment on Singapore not so good because the ASEAN region, Indonesia, Malaysia, all these COVID cases are going up. Thailand is going up. I think Indonesia, Philippines are controlling very well. So as such that, Singapore has been lumped together, even though Singapore did a very good job in the COVID cases in here. So on this side, you can see UMS. Let's take a look at UMS, and it was one of the trending stocks. So you can hit the trending stocks here, right? And this is how I found it. There was only 3558. It is a technology and it is a semiconductor player. So right now, looking at the stock chart and the comment, you can see, just bring it up in here, where the market started to move up. This is very, very similar play to Apple. All right, now Apple, if you look at the chart in here, very similar. So what we are saying that those who are already in the good news, profit taking, but the bad news one where we see the Singapore SGX, we started to move up with UMS. A very, very good play in here. Not many people eventually jumps. Of course, some of you may ask, will the thing happening for Malaysia, which is what we see for Inari, MPI in here. But because remember the KLCI sentiments are still down, so a lot of people not willing to take in here, but the Singapore started to move up to follow the major trend of the US market in here. So I do hope that what I have here, combining both SGX, KLSE and the US market, does give you a much, much better picture that where you should put your money now, where to follow that trend in here. Okay, of course, our Pentagon Guider trading portfolio continue to do very, very well. As I said before, we continue to update you on the backdrop of 35,000 ringgit. Last year, we all know 2020 was a very good year and we have 106%. Now, despite what we had, we have still managed to catch a few winners and losers. Of course, the win rate about 67% in here, and we are up at 15% versus minus 3% on KLCI. We are still positive, of course, going forward. That's the whole point why we want to show you with the Pentagon Guider system that we have, and many of you are who are aware of that. We will talk about this tomorrow on the Pentagon Guider, so make sure you catch me on our modern value investing workshop here. All right, of course, let's look at the leaderboard that we have for you for our advanced trade idea, which is our premium alert, updated every 30 minutes. Hyaptek in here, Samadam, and so forth. So it's a lot of very short burst movement in here. Now, the last week trade idea that we had, Enom Echo will experience high volume, and we all know immediately on the Monday when the MCO was likely to continue rather than they ease off the lockdown. So that's why we have the selling in here. So let me just bring up the charts I want to show with you that we have and what has transpired. Let's look at Enom. Switching to a daily chart here. So you can see Enom was here. That was last week. That's Friday. We were hoping Monday where the lift off of the lockdown, but it did not. Instead, we went more, and you can see Enom went further down in here. I'm not too sure which industry you want to, so you can always check out on the fundamental which industry you want to see that. But this does tell you when we see climatic, that is the kind of selling there. The other one is Echo HLDS, Echo Build Holdings. This likely to be construction, and again on the 25th. Right, Monday we have this continuation of the MCO. That's why we have the big sell-off that we have, and right now the market is right at the same base. Now the other stock that we have, JHL, again benefiting from the technology. Okay, so JHM. All right, JHM continued to hold its level, very similar what we saw for UMS. So those of you who are trading, especially those one who want to trade the Singapore dollars one, use the UMS. If you're trading in Malaysia, use JHM, and if you're in US, you might want to take a look at Micron Technology or Apple. So that gives you the kind of area where you have eventually you will be multi-exchange expert, right? I think that's something I really want to share with you in here, and that's how you really want to make the money in here, moving from region to region in here. All right, so this is what we have. Nice trade setup in here. The takeout of the 194 eventually will come, and this market continue to go up. All right, let's look at what we have for this morning. Now this morning hasn't been that great. Let's take a look at the market for what. Let me switch back to the KLSE, switch to KLSE. So those of you who want to use 3 chart, you can use the all exchange pass. Okay, all exchange pass, switching to a wider chart here. So if you look at Velesto, okay, let's look at this morning in here, where's the market is, the KLCI market today. Right now you can see we have DNEX up 1.4, K-Power 2.4, Server Dynamic is pretty much there. It's up 1 point, still holding up. I don't think there is much of a rosy picture going forward unless the COVID cases drops. And tonight it's going to be interesting because last night we hit almost close to 7,000 cases in here. So I'm not sure tonight whether the cases are going. But the fact is, the next 2 weeks will be enhanced MCO. So the downside is at least we have a chance to sit back, relax with our family, have a chance to study the market and become very proficient on the manner that we see here. So let's take a look at the Velesto for the premium alert. I've just selected one this morning in here. Now this is because on the backdrop of the stronger WTI. All right, so you can see here market is trying to break up here. So nice base, a lot of spring in here. So let's see what would happen next week when we come back and look at Velesto. So that will be the stock trade idea this morning for our Pentagon Guider in here. All right. Of course, the structural chart or the conceptual map will be the line change that we see. And before that, we want to always pay attention to low volume support. These are some of the things that we always talk about in our workshop, and I continue to flash out. So temporary pullback is usually justifiable when the market right now it's bullish in here. And here is the QR code. For those of you who are first time following us, make sure you use our QR code and follow us there. All right, and great treat for definitely for tomorrow. So do register for our modern value investing workshop, where we'll cover some aspect, a little bit of update from where we have from the value investing, the traditional in here. And here are the agenda for tomorrow. We start at 2 o'clock in here. There's a QR code, and we're talking about the difference between the pro and the cons of the different modern investing in here. We will look at the two new indicators. We will talk about modern value investing, which is the free cash flows, price to cash flow ratios, and return on invested capital. So there's something new. Those of you who want to learn that, and how to combine them in tomorrow's workshop, and how to look for those shares that will lead you to whether you're trading the KLCI market, the Singapore market, the Hong Kong market, and the US. So make sure you join me tomorrow in this free Zoom workshop. All right, I'll see you tomorrow on that part. And also don't forget to visit our Trade VSA event to find out all our current educational events. Most of them are free, and some of them are for our masterclass members. So remember to scan it on the top there and know more about our events here. All right, and of course right now we are to the session. We want to thank all our top fans and our top sharer in here for your kind support, and we will review some of the stocks that you do have with you. And those of you who felt that we've done a good job, do go over the Google Play Store or the Apple Store to give us a feedback. We really appreciate how we can improve our services and product to you, just like what we are doing in here, showing you where the money is. All right, so let's take a look at some of the stocks that you may have. Just shoot it away. All right, and okay, if I do have some, I would like to look into it. Okay, or there's no stock. Oh, you can always give me the US section too. Not really an issue too. Okay, all right. Any good stocks you want me to look at? Oh, pretty much taken care of, because right now with the SMARTRobie that you have and the constant educational program that we have, but I want to go a bit more deep tomorrow, okay, where you can combine the charting plus the fundamental, which is very unique. Not many seafood out there are teaching that, and given the tools that you have, I think we have one of the best educational method to give to you, VSA with fundamentals too. All right, so do share our link for our tomorrow workshop with your friends and colleagues, and make sure they join us too. All right, okay, we have here MYEG, that's right, okay, MYEG. Okay, MYEG, as I said before earlier on, this is one of the stocks that we bought. We bought it around here, Green Pentagon. We cut it as soon as it broke through the ATR stop loss. So Kenny, Kenny Bear, I hope that you have attended some of our courses, come to our masterclass. Usually when we see break below ATR stop loss, better cabut lah. You better leave cabut already. This one, okay, very simple. Okay, CGB, you have to cut it here. CGB on Malaysian stocks. Yeah, this one also have to cabut already. See, broke through the ATR stop loss. You have to exit. So it's pretty easy, isn't it? The question is whether we want to follow or not. All right. Let's look at the QES group. All right. This one looks pretty good. As I said before, you want to get out from CGP, get out from MYG, and get into QES. Green Pentagon in here. That's probably some news. Very, very classic with the spring in here. Nice one in here, QES. Get in. This is the right time to go. So you can still find some good trending stocks also, right? QES, definitely one of them too. Okay, definitely in the US side, we do have the, if you look at the UMS, the stocks that we are talking about, 558, right, continue to go up. You can see this is the UMS we were talking about just now in the Singapore market, continue to go up. You can see we have this line change, low volume, pops back up in here. So you can see this is a very positive. It's only 153 Sing dollar in here. So this is a market that you can look at in here. Point is, look for share that is buying up. Now, Kenny Bear, you've been following me a fair while. I do notice you in here. always ask yourself, why don't I move to stocks that has some sort of a trend rather than, on the trend. I assume your MYEG you have exited, okay? And you're trying to find out why is it going down. That's where it is. The market is pretty bearish in here. And the whole point is having a plan, as I said before, time and time again. You need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you got to look back, how much money have you lost? And with the money that you lost, can I make back compared to our trending portfolio of the 15%? And that's the challenge I always give back to some of the audience in here. What can you do better, right? When the evidence that is presented to you, the answers are probably in some other shares, all right? Just keep that in mind. Usually, it's always the case that we find it very difficult to change because we don't have a plan. Change is very painful in here. I think that's why we need to open up, all right? Okay, for that matter. So if there's no more stocks here, we're going to close and for today. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget, all our tutorial will be updated in here. And of course, our best stock trade idea, don't forget to submit and stand a chance to win the 50 ringgit Grab voucher and the iPad giveaway. And more importantly, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. All right, for our modern value investing, I'm going to share with you some new insights that I use to look for value shares. And for those of you who are first time, do share and join our Telegram chat room for all the free information and notification of our public event, so you will get the wealth and the knowledge. All right, so with that, I bid you a good day, and for the rest of the day, probably you have something planned in mind in here. And hope that all goes well with you. Stay safe and stay alert. No doubt the cases are going up, but something very positive is at least we are able to find some good trending stocks for you, where you're able to put your money nicely in your bank account. All right, with that, I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bye bye.